Welcome back to This Is Live, the Sunday talk show here on the Arise News channel. Now with me in the studio, I have Professor David Aworawo, Professor of International Relations and Strategic Studies at the University of Lagos. Jide Ologun, legal practitioner, national development advocate and fellow, Institute of Leadership Coaching and Strategy. And Yemi, Adamolekun, former executive director in office. I hope that's correct.
No, it's not.
You are still in charge.
She starts on Wednesday.
Okay. We still have a few more days to go. Okay, executive director in office now. Good to have you.
Thank you.
And Happy New Year. This is our first edition in 2026. Well, we have had two guests. Last week, Yemi Adamolekun wanted a special focus on taxation. So we were able to get chairman of the Nigerian Revenue Service to address many of the concerns. So he was our first guest. And all the issues from bank narration to the law, to expectations, to the highlights, objectives, he tried to address them as much as possible. And after him, we had Professor Femi Otubanjo, research professor at the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, talking about the invasion of Venezuela by President Donald Trump and whether that is legal or not, the implications for smaller countries of the world, and what is likely to happen hereafter. Mr. Ologun, let me start with you.
Thank you very much. A very brilliant discussion on the taxation implementations. And really, many questions have been asked by the Nigerian citizens. So I prescribed that the communication engagement should be sustained. And from what Dr. presented, I think it is the business of the National Assembly to make the laws and their own business to implement. So all those gray areas, if what we have now is that there are no alterations in the gazetted version, then proceed and implement. And he said that it's not taxing investment, but taxing profits, and that this is not a tax targeted at the poor, and that in a short while, citizens will begin to see the benefits of the reforms. But I just want to also speak to that, saying that perhaps the citizens should have seen more benefits from the removal of the fuel subsidy when the president said subsidy was gone. But right now, the majority of the Nigerian citizens cannot claim to be having that direct impact of the subsidy removal. But I expect that this time around the focus will shift, because he made a valid point that if the president is considering the next election, he will not have gone ahead to take this bold step. Another step has been taken again. With those that have been taken, can the benefits manifest this time around? And he also answered several questions about the banks being completely separate from the tax implementations and things like that. We hope that there will be sincerity of purpose, but I just advise that the communication should be sustained to explain a lot of questions on the minds of the people. And that brings me to the case of Donald Trump kidnapping the president of Venezuela and the wife. Yeah, we saw that coming. Recently, he has bombed some boats, allegedly trafficking drug from Venezuela to America, and he has also promised that he will take further actions. And I quite appreciate how Prof dug into the motives. And I know that the interest of China in Venezuela and some other countries does not make America comfortable. And when he's now saying that big time oil investors in America will move into Venezuela, some are already there and they have their expired license not renewed. So there are several issues here. And I'm also concerned about how the superpowers of the world are coming out to play now like the big ones, and which is questioning the powers of the United Nations, just like some of us also tried raising some queries directed at ECOWAS when some countries started migrating from democracy to other forms of government. So we are watching to see the direction this will take. But like we were discussing before stepping in here, that also depends on the docility of the citizens in Venezuela that may make it easy for America to go and run that country on how it's been planned. Right now in Nigeria, it's even difficult for the Nigerian government to commence oil exploration in the Ogoni region, which we all know, after many years of stampeding those efforts. But right now, the global stage is having a lot of dynamism, and I think we also should wake up as a nation to see how we can start navigating the ocean of greatness, because the superpowers have almost turned the world stage to a playground. So those are my submissions in the interim as we watch, because now we don't know how you're going to implement your own criminal laws by going to engage in a military arrest of a president of another country. So let's see how this will turn out in the days, weeks, and months to come. But by and large, Donald Trump has again changed the narratives of international relations. So we also test the powers of the United Nations.
Thank you. Your interview with Dr. Jide was interesting. I think so let's start with, as you said, I completely agree with Mr. Ologun that the idea that fuel subsidy as a reform has benefited Nigerians because there are no queues and scarcity is really very low in terms of what Nigerians should expect to get from a policy that has saved, quote unquote, the Nigerian government significant amounts of money. I don't have the figure off the top of my head. But then in parallel, it seems to be, I think we discussed it a while ago, the almost equivalent sum that we're paying for pipeline protection. So the lack of transparency in that, and Dr. Adedeji's point was interesting to listen to. And then when you asked him about the MOU as well, he literally danced around the question. Because if the MOU is just a technical piece of document, we have it with France, we have it with South America, we have it with the UK, why is it then so hard to make public? That's literally what anybody's asking. Freedom of information request, make it public so people see what's inside and everybody can calm down. But the way to answer that is to say that it's just a technical document, it's not a big deal. Again, leaves a lot of questions unanswered. And then lastly, the reform question. Now, I completely agree with Dr. Adedeji in the sense that if we're able to streamline our tax regime, that people can file online, there are clear provisions for the poor that don't tax them heavily. As you said, we're taxing profit and taxing consumption. Those are good things. And I don't think, I'm trying to frame this discussion around people attacking tax reform. I think in a sense is almost being smart by half, because that's not the issue. The issue, at least from where I sit, is an issue of a legislative process that has gone bad. And the president is basically saying, I don't really care. And he is also saying, as the head of Nigeria's tax agency, I don't care. It's a different thing if you acknowledge that there is a problem and then charge the National Assembly to fix the problem and find out who was responsible for the problem. But to pretend that a problem doesn't exist then makes the executive come under scrutiny, or then people become suspicious of what role could the executive have had in that. Now, from what I understand, I think as of a week ago, I didn't check this afternoon, the copy of the Gazetted Act that was on the Fiscal Reform website was different from the copy that was on the Tax Tribunal website. Both of them gazetted by the Ministry of Information. So what the House of Representatives was then asking, he said, you know what, can you give us a CTC, so asking the clerk of the National Assembly, give us a CTC copy, certified true copy of the harmonized bill, so we can actually see what copy was sent to Mr. President, because that is different from what we're now seeing that was gazetted. What was released yesterday was basically the clerk of the National Assembly, or the National Assembly itself, saying, don't worry, the gazetted one, that's the real one. We have certified the gazetted one. So they failed to release the certified true copy of what the legislators passed, but they are now basically saying we have adopted this gazetted version as the correct one. And so, therefore, if they adopt the gazetted one, what is on the website, there will be no difference. And I think for me, that is the issue. The issue is the flaw in our legislative process that we're unwilling to take up, find out what happened, and hold the people responsible. So we get, and as Dr. Adediji rightly said, we will get lost in technicalities of tax if we make that the focus, again, of this particular issue. It's a legislative process that the National Assembly is refusing to be accountable about. Yes, there are other concerns that I think I do agree with him that with time, as people understand better and the law is implemented, people will be clear around what is rumor, what is disinformation, what is misinformation once it gets underway. But I don't think in trying to pass a legislature that's the best one in a generation, one thing, should be lost or should take precedence over looking at a glaring flaw in a legislative process that nobody wants to take responsibility for. And secondly, on Trump, what is there to say in the fact that there is a man who has decided to wield the power of the US government to do as he pleases? If he wakes up tomorrow and attacks Colombia, as we said, Colombia, Mexico, Nigeria, for lack of a better word, then what? I think I was very glad to see that the Ghanaian government has issued a statement really very clearly condemning it. And it's interesting coming from Ghana because Ghana had allowed Trump to send prisoners, or what was it?
No, prisoners, third country deportees.
But Ghana received them, Nigeria refused.
Illegal immigrants.
Ghana accepted to receive them, Nigeria refused to receive them. So
Eswatini, agree. Sudan, agree.
So I very much doubt the Nigerian government will have the balls to issue a statement condemning Trump. Not to say we were just attacked like a week ago.
Why? We're a sovereign country.
Really? Are you sure? Do you want to bet, Dr. Arati? Do you want to bet?
No. No pinky.
No pinky, okay, all right. But I'm very impressed that, and I say that for Ghana because Ghana is not seen as antagonistic. Ghana welcomed this third-party thing. But they did that, but yet they still have the balls to say that this is completely unacceptable. Ghana also notes with deep concern statements by the US President Donald Trump that the US will run Venezuela until such a time, blah, blah, blah. These declarations are reminiscent of the colonial and imperialist era. They set a dangerous precedent for the global order. Such colonial ambitions should have no place in the post-Second World War era. Very clear statement. And I think for me, it will be interesting to see how the world responds. I haven't seen many strong responses, but the very notion of the fact that even if it's drugs, for the sake of argument, let's even forget oil, which is what we think he's after. Even if you want to arrest someone for drug trafficking, you leave your country, enter his country, the president of the country, and carry him and his wife. People. This is not good. Not good.
Professor Aworawo.
I want to begin by appreciating Yemi and Dr. Abati for the interview with Dr. Adediji. You helped them do what they ought to have done on their own. There have been so many speculations, so many misinformation surrounding the tax thing. The things he said, he cleared the air on so many things, even though there are areas I don't agree with him. But there were comments he made which explained a whole lot of things that people had speculated on, which was the last point Dr. Abati made, that he would hope that there will be more enlightenment and all that, and he accepted. I hope he will walk the talk. When there is no clear information, of course, all sorts of rumors and all that, will take the center stage. Now to the specifics. A couple of things he said, the thing being harmonized, many of those who didn't pay tax until now will now pay tax, government will have more revenue. Fantastic. But a couple of things he said which I disagree with. For instance, he said that the president, it was a bold step. In fact, the president took a risk. Election is around the corner and is coming with this reform, tax reform. If the tax reform is for the good of the people and a large number of the poor will not pay taxes, what should it be a risk? It should be something that the president will gain from. Why should it be a risk?
Indeed.
Yeah. And then second, the question you asked regarding the use of government revenue, because there are two ways, revenue and then what the revenue is used for. And then he said, for instance, removal of fuel subsidy, there are no queues.
Exactly.
There are two things. One, availability. Two, affordability.
Affordability.
I know of many people who have cars who just park them and then enter Korokwe and all that because they can't afford to buy the fuel. So the judicious use of the revenue has no connection with the fact that, there are no queues. That is not the answer. The answer is what has the revenue that government has, extra revenue that government has got from all of those things been used for? We can see. Now, people are not able to buy fuel to move their cars, so they go on public transport. If a lot of this, what has come to government, has been used for more mass transit, development capacity in that area, people will benefit from that. Actually, in many countries, people just go by train, people just go by, the public transportation. Not everybody, jump into his car and they're entering the road. We don't have that. One would have expected that, the fuel subsidy removal and the extra revenue, a lot of it will be plowed into this because they are connected. It's about mobility. But we have not seen anything like that. So these are things that the government needs actually to focus on. And the issue of trust. The fact that since May 29, 2023 till now, people can see the extra thing that the extra revenue has brought, it is just normal that people would be skeptical regarding paying extra taxes. The government's ability to use the resources for the benefit of the people. And that is what government has to work on. People normally all over the world want to pay taxes, but when people see what the taxes are being used for and the benefit derivable from it, they will be more willing to pay taxes. So let us see how things unfold. He has promised a whole lot of things, the beginning of good things to come. We have had this several times. Let us see how all of these things unfold as we move on. Then Trump and Venezuela. Do I say these are interesting times? What has happened is actually, to use the term that some scholars were using in the middle post-Cold War period, that have we come into a new world order or a new world disorder? It will appear as if Trump is just is turning the place topsy-turvy and creating a new world disorder. It is very clear. Is it a violation of international law? Yes. Article 2.4 of the United Nations Charter talks about countries refraining from the use of force on another country. Yes. And it's clear. How much when you deploy 15,000 troops to a country and then you abduct the president and the wife, and how else do you describe that? And that was exactly the language that that Russia used. Aggression, violent aggression against Venezuela, which it condemns as well. Yes, the resources in Venezuela, of course, is of interest. Trump has made it very clear about those resources. But there is something that Trump doesn't seem to understand. It is not easy to just move in a country and begin to exploit resources like that. It's not easy. Brother Ologun just mentioned Niger Delta. When there is an insurgency, the security you will need to exploit those things will make whatever you get, it will be so expensive that it will be useless. So diplomacy is not a useless exercise. If you negotiate, just like Professor Otupajo was saying, if you negotiate and you reach a consensus somewhere, even though you use your might to have your way, that is a better option than what Trump wants to do. To now run the country, Pompeo and someone they will run the... It's just amazing. The Nobel Committee, they will be very, very happy that they didn't give the Nobel Prize to Trump. They would have been embarrassed if they had, because just like Yemi has said, see where we are. And then for Nigeria, yes, Nigeria needs to be, we need to now reevaluate the attack that took place on Christmas Day. We know that countries are hardly altruistic. National interest is always, very, the preeminent thing. And so the President Tinubu needs to be cautious. He's been going, apart from the US, he says Turkey and some other countries are being, we should look more,
Mexico,
yes, we should Colombia. We should look more inwards first. Countries are not Father Christmas. countries are always considering their interests. So altruism that President Tinubu is thinking would prepare countries to come and assist Nigeria to tackle insecurity does not exist. So, and there should be more skepticism now about, Trump's interest. Is he actually interested in Nigeria being secure, Christians being protected? Or
is that not obvious?
or the minerals in Zamfara and Sokoto and all. So because anywhere he goes to, he talks about these minerals. When they negotiated the agreement, the ceasefire in Rwanda and DR Congo, he made it very clear.
Exactly.
In the case of Ukraine, Russia, he has also made it very clear. So Nigeria's case cannot be different. We should begin to now exercise a whole lot of more skepticism and then see how we can put our house in order so that Trump can stay where he is and will remain where we are.
And make progress.
Okay. Very good. Anyway, let's take another subject. Let's come home now. The Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors has announced plans to resume its total, indefinite, and complete strike, what they call TICS 2.0, from January 12, citing the government's failure to implement agreements reached with the association. The association, in a statement issued on Saturday and signed by its president, Mohammed Suleiman, outlined that the planned strike, tagged "No Implementation, No Going Back," is expected to commence at the appointed date unless the government meets the association's outstanding demands. In addition to the planned strike, the resident doctors announced plans for nationwide protests to highlight unresolved welfare concerns affecting resident doctors. Now, in November, this same National Association of Resident Doctors called out its members and they were on strike for 29 days. Then they had a meeting with the federal government and they reached certain agreements by November 29. Then they called off the strike. But since November 29 till now, the resident doctors, who constitute the major bulk of service providers, in the various, hospitals, then said the federal government has not followed up on its promises, and now they are declaring an indefinite strike, and that no implementation, no return to work. Now, last time, during the 29 days, we saw patients protesting, complaining. Many died. Many had to go to private hospitals. And now the question is, what is the problem? Unpaid allowances, review of the professional grading system for resident doctors, unpaid salary arrears, and all of that. What will you advise should be done this time around, Professor Aworawo?
Well, it is really disappointing that government will enter into agreements with different, bodies and not bother to implement. We still have a week to the, to the date.
Dates
yes,
of
a whole
shutdown.
lot. Yes, a whole lot can happen before then. The minister should quickly invite them and then discuss with them, and then get a template of implementation. Government will always say we don't have all the money to pay now. They should express goodwill. Explain to them, this is what we can do now, this is what we'll do in 2 months, this is what, so that both sides can agree on something. The ratio of doctors to Nigerians, the gap is too wide to have any one person going on strike. Yeah. And we've always seen people, avoidable deaths when these strikes take place. Fortunately, they haven't said they will start tomorrow. They said they will start a notice a week's time. A whole lot can happen between now and then, so that we can have a bit of stability in the system. Remember ASU too, we had but we just finished negotiating. The committees are recommended between 150-200% increase. Government only granted 40%. ASU has accepted, goodwill, and they said they will sign the thing. I think on the same 12th of January they will sign the agreement. We hope we won't have this kind of experience of implementation of that. Let government.
Wait, no, but you know my problem with ASU. You said you hope. Have you had any agreements that government has kept?
Well, we can always be hopeful, because there are times when they promise, they fulfill. Really, it's not all the time they promise and fail. Okay. And the current government has done a couple of things here and there, not nearly close to what is expected. But so when the agreement is signed, let government fulfill so that we have stability in the system, whether it is health, education, or whatever other sector of the Nigerian system.
Okpeyemi.
I mean, just to add to Prof's point, the fact that they've given notice. But I think this would have been a good place for Dr. Adedeji to say where fuel subsidy money has been spent, since we're talking accountability or where people's monies are going to. But it is very unfortunate. And I think the way you framed it actually is really, I hope people can see what that looks like. That the gap between Nigerians and the medical services we need is so wide that any time we're having people go on strike, the resulting cost in human lives is unnecessary. And so why this is not priority, or why the government doesn't think this is priority, I don't know, befuddles the mind. But it also ties to, I think, again, to what Dr. Adedeji has said about protests, when he was saying if people then protest the new tax act, that it's not, they basically trying to insinuate that they are going to be mobilized, that it's not poor people that will protest because they benefit. But this constant pushing our professional services, be it academia or medical, to protest and shut down and down tools to get government's attention, it doesn't help national growth in any way, shape, or form. So no matter how wonderful our tax reform is, how it's the best legislation in a century, when people are dying because they can't access medical care, when our education system is not delivering people to function in the 21st century, then what exactly are we celebrating as development for Nigerians?
Mr. Aworawo.
Thank you.
Mr. Ologun.
As if Doctor knew I was going to pick it from Prof. Aworawo. You know, in human resource management, you talk about industrial relations, which is focused on gaining harmony between stakeholders. And you also talk about collective bargaining. And when you bargain, it is expected you keep faith with integrity to implement. I recall the case of ASU, an agreement signed as far as 2009 till now is still being renegotiated and re-signed. When do we begin to implement? And I think it has to do with prioritization. Let's just ask a simple question. Imagine that when the fuel subsidy was removed, that the accrued revenue was invested into that sector, for instance, that the resident doctors, well paid, the lecturers and everything, and the governors are left with their usual revenue. Because some governors came out to say, and now we earn so much. Even the president went to some of the governors to tell them, we give you more money now, your people are complaining. We will not have the situation we have right now. My concern is that when you talk about welfareism in human resource management, you have room for comparison. And we have this Japa syndrome. Right now, Canada is poaching for doctors. You know, some other countries are poaching for doctors and offering juicy welfare packages. So where do we stand? At a time, Saudi Arabia got so bold. Saudi Arabia came to Nigeria to conduct interviews for medical practitioners. And if the health and welfare of our citizens are important to the government, I do not even want to read that after this threat again, we are still talking about non-implementation. We've said it. Section 14, subsection 2 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended states that the security and the welfare of the citizens shall be the primary purpose of government. And when you talk about human resource management, you look at section 17 of our Constitution. It's clearly stated there the kind of environment that should be provided for the workforce. But it's quite interesting that while some elites within the political circle over-enjoy the good of the land, those who provide the critical services, we have to protest and cry and shout. I don't think this is right at all. Whether we like it or not, some of these practitioners will find their ways out of the country in the months to come. Are we now saying, though Ngige mentioned it then, that we have more than enough doctors in Nigeria? The answer is no. So let the government wake up to her responsibility of having good welfare provided for the citizens by sustaining the workforce that will provide that.
Okay, we have 2 more topics to take. Let's start with this. The Magistrate Court in Shagamu, Ogun State, has granted bail to Adeniyi Mobolaji Kayode, the driver of the crashed Lexus sports utility vehicle involving former world heavyweight champion, boxing champion Anthony Joshua. Kayode was charged last Friday by the police on a 4-count charge bordering on dangerous driving, causing death, reckless and negligent driving, driving without due care and attention, and driving without a valid national driver's license. The driver was granted 5 million naira bail with 2 sureties. He was remanded in a correctional facility pending fulfillment of the bail conditions. In the meantime, it has been reported that Anthony Joshua has flown back to the United Kingdom after that fatal car crash in Nigeria that killed 2 of his friends, close friends, Shinagami and Lateef Ayodele, died after the vehicle they were traveling in, along with Joshua, struck a stationary truck on a road near Lagos on Monday. Joshua sustained minor injuries, and the 2-time heavyweight champion was discharged from hospital on Wednesday after being deemed clinically fit to recuperate at home. Gami was Joshua's strength and conditioning coach, while Ayodele was a trainer. Just hours before the crash, Joshua and Ayodele posted clips on social media playing table tennis together. Very sad, tragic incident. Mr. Ologun, briefly.
Sad one indeed, and I express my condolence to the families of the departed. And, I read something before we came in here that Anthony Joshua has retired from boxing because, according to him, that he cannot imagine going into the boxing ring and seeing the faces of his 2 friends that have departed. And I think that is honorable. It's a trauma I don't pray anyone should live with. They came to Nigeria on holiday and they returned in body bags. Very sad indeed. And on the arraignment of the driver, I hope justice will be done, because I was surprised that, he could be driving such a high-profile personality without a national driving license. And I also listened to some comments of federal road safety and things like that. We need to exercise more caution. And indeed, it was a punctuation during the festivities period that has really resonated largely on the scale of shock. So, and we condole with the Nigerian government, the UK government, and I wish Anthony Joshua the strength to pull through. It's indeed a shocking one.
Thank you. Just quickly, condolences to the family of the 2 gentlemen, and I hope Anthony takes the time that he needs to kind of process what happened and process their deaths. But I think my main thing for this will be 2 things real quickly. One is about our response, our emergency response. We've invested a lot of money in fixing Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. I think it goes without saying that we also need to invest in ensuring that people who use that road are protected. Accidents happen. Driver error, road error, whatever the case might be. But then also, secondly, a reminder to Nigeria's elite that no matter how much money you have, if we don't fix governance and don't fix our infrastructure in this country, bad things will happen, and you will be challenging to get the care that you need to keep you alive. But we're thankful that Anthony survived.
Okay, Prof.
Yeah, I agree with Yemi that we need to have, the emergency response is far, far below standard. They should work on that. But I'll shift, after saying condolences to the families of those who died, I'll shift to how we conduct ourselves. That accident is totally preventable. And that is what breaks my heart in all of this. From the information, of course, the guy was overspeeding. The vehicle he wanted to overtake, he wanted to overtake from the right. Apparently, maybe the vehicle was not even aware The vehicle wanted to overtake by the right, and it turned his hand a bit, forcing him now to also turn. If a vehicle were not parked, he might have just run into the sand and then maybe find his way. Unfortunately, it was at the point where a vehicle was to the right. So the Kayode has no Kayode. This is a particular Kayode. You should have been more careful in the driving. And when you are in a car and somebody is driving recklessly, you also have responsibility to call the person to order. Slow down, don't go, we'll have solved all of this.
If they were awake.
But we hope that justice will be done at the end of the day.
Okay, finally, and we have just a few minutes. The national chairman of the All Progressives Congress, APC, Professor Netanwe Yiwata, has declared Governor Simi Fubara as the leader of the party in Rivers State. Professor Yiwata also pledged to support Fubara's second-term bid if he wins the party's primaries. The APC chairman's confirmation came as the minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, declared that his political career will suffer irreparable damage if Fubara secures a second term in office. The party chair explained that it is APC's practice to recognize 7 governors as party leaders in their respective states. He, however, emphasized that Governor Fubara must work with other stakeholders to ensure inclusion and effective coordination within the party. Apparently, in response to this, Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, has declared that Rivers State Governor Simi Fubara will not be re-elected in the 2027 governorship election, insisting that the state's reported 600 billion financial war chest would not save him from defeat. Wike accused his estranged political ally of reneging on agreements reached during a peace and reconciliation meeting convened by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in June. Now, very quickly and very briefly, let me start with you, Professor Aworawo.
Well, I'm happy about what is happening in Rivers. They will cancel each other out. It just reveals how selfish our politicians are. Yeah. They will cancel each other out, but the interest of Rivers people is what is of concern to me in all of this. That after fighting and fighting and fighting, what will be left for the attention to the interest of the people? Yeah. But whoever the Rivers want to also elect, they should elect.
Okpeyemi.
Yeah, the proxy Fubara becomes the dummy, I mean not dummy in a bad way, but the proxy pawn, in a sense, between Tinubu and Wike. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
Mr. Ologun.
This time around, Wike is not in APC, and APC is taking a position. Wike won the first part of the battles. I want to watch and see who wins the second part. And I won't say more than that.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Ologun. Thank you, Yemi Adamolekun. Still executive director until Wednesday.
And that's on Sunday. We have to say something.
Emeritus.
Okay, then you become executive director emeritus.
Yes.
That would be the best way to put it. And Professor Aworawo, thank you very much. Now, you've been watching This Day Live, the Sunday talk show here on Arise News. I'm Ruben Abati from our entire team here in Lagos. It's bye for now, and thank you very much for watching.